we'll just go around the room, do introductions, and then just at the same time, just tell us what you're doing in your office, if anything exciting. I guess I'll let Nick, he's our new GIS person, he can introduce himself as well, so we'll get through that as well. So again, I'm Malcolm Meyer. I'm doing the transportation planning now for the RTPO, but also still doing a lot of GIS stuff. We're just getting started. What's going on? And I'll talk about some news and updates after we go around the room. So,
Jason Gillo, Pickaway County GIS Department.
What are you guys up to?
Just clumping along.
I'm Mitch 86. I'm with the Broward County Engineers Office. I'm the GIS coordinator for Broward County. And we don't really have any large projects right now. Staying up to date.
I'm Nick Cronkey. I started here 3 weeks ago as a research plan specialist, new GIS guy. Malcolm kind of transitioned out, so I'm still getting on board with a lot of projects. Pretty excited to be a part of it.
And Ken from Ohio University.
And are you guys doing anything? What is your current projects that you're working on?
Okay, we're working on right now with a number of counties, Columbiana County and Guernsey County. Now they are developing the parcels, basically converting all the paper-based or some CAD-based into the ArcGIS format. That's what we are right now working with the county. So that's, I guess,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of more, but.
Donnell will bring up from Highland County Water, GIS technician, and in the process of just updating the information on the maps and making new maps that are more user friendly for the guys on the fields and the office.
Aaron Young, Pipewater, just playing catch up on the meters and the valves and the ones they've done last year. So we tried online a little bit, but the girls don't like the functions are different. They're used to getting online and using, so they're wanting to scrap it already, go back to ArcReader and publish maps.
I'm Kyla Baxton from Gallup Water. I'm their GIS tech. And we're actually going to be going to ArcGIS online soon. We'll see how that goes with all of our office staff. And then we're also in the process of re-GPSing all of our meters that we have so that they're at the accuracy that we need them to be. So that's a task in itself.
Amy Simpson, I'm from the Adams County Tax Map Office, and we've been working on the parcel layer, and we're about 15 maps from being done.
I'm Angelina Newman. I'm the GIS coordinator director for Adams County. As Amy said, we're almost done with parcel layer, and then we're starting the next phase of our lives, getting to go out to public. We've got a server coming next week. It's supposed to be in next week to get us started. Maybe the office will be rearranged a little bit to get ready for the public to come in and start seeing our products. And the next phase is getting it ready for online. We're moving. Getting out to the next venture. Katrina Sherrill, Pike County Engineers. We're currently converting from 3.2 to 10.3. January 1st, we'll launch our new internet site.
I'm Chris Fussell with Claremont County GIS Department.
Kelly Berry, Claremont County. We're upgrading all our servers seemingly at once. So we thought we'd take advantage of that time to not only upgrade the server itself, but we're upgrading our ArcMap to 10.3. We were at 10.1 prior to that.
Joey O'Brien, Claremont County too. I'm an analyst there. I've been doing a lot of the administrative work on the server and Arc Online too since we installed it a couple weeks ago. So that's what I've been busy working on.
Ken Carrier, Claremont County Auditor's Office. We just finished building a tool in Python for our CAUV calculations. So we're doing most of that in-house right now, and we just sent our abstract in this morning.
Lonnie Bass from Orange County. We don't have nothing going right now.
All right. Well, again, Nick introduced himself. I'll just go through some quick GIS news in the news lately. Don't get too excited about your drones that you're all going out and buying for your GIS collection. There's now probably going to be a drone registry. At the GIS conference in past September, drones were a big topic. A lot of interesting stuff going on, but still the red tape to actually get the really cool data that you can get out of drones is far from there. But there is a lot of cool stuff happening with GIS and drones and UAVs right now. This is interesting. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this events of PDF map app. The Forest Service is going to start using this. It basically allows you to take a PDF map that's been georeferenced. We just got started. That's been georeferenced and open it up on your Android or iOS phone. Add place marks. Locate yourself on the map. It's really interesting, actually. So it's the Forest Service is going to use it for some of their fire crews, I think. Here's the story about it, so it's kind of interesting. Google Maps has started offline navigation, which is good probably for some of us down here. I haven't read through this article, but it's kind of interesting. While we're all here together, I'll put a plug in for OpenStreetMap, the hot OpenStreetMap project. If you're not familiar with OpenStreetMap, it's what is the basis for a lot of the web maps that you see out there that aren't Google or Bing. There's a ton of data, but there's a lot of areas that the data hasn't been collected yet. And what the OpenStreetMap hot team or community of OpenStreetMap does is they'll go into areas and they'll do like a mass collection or data verification of certain areas where there's like been a hurricane or other things like that. So you can go in here, log in, create a login, and it's basically like digitizing or confirming that the data is accurate. You know, so that you can have, so that humanitarian workers on the ground can have updated road and other information. They get imagery donated from like Digital Globe and others to help in that project. It's really interesting. So that's some of that. Here's encourage everybody to look at our website. We're doing some, we've got some new RTPO maps up, all the ODOT work plan, the bike routes, pavement conditions. Again, just check out our website for some updated maps that we've been working on. And also there's another, for those of you who were here last time, we did a survey on just some possibilities for next year topics. We're thinking of going to doing either in addition or instead of the presentations, doing like a workshop series. So whether it would be 2 hours or longer. So we're looking into that for next year. But that's basically all the updates I have. So I think I'll turn it over to our first presenter. Let me get you going here on this.
Just switch it so it's.
Let me make sure it is. Yes, it should be.
Grab that.
Yeah.
As Malcolm said before, we're from Adams County. We're finishing up our parcel layers, and this is basically how we've done it. Basically, the department's goal is to compile everything that's out there and what needs to be out there for our customers, whether it's another county or the commissioners or whoever, to get their data, working with everyone. And we have, first thing that we've done was we went and talked to all of the, different people like the commissioner's office, the tax map, the auditor, the engineer, and said, what do you need from us to be able to do this? And of course, working together with other counties to see what they had done, pulled in parcel layers from Brown County and Claremont, or not Claremont, sorry, I meant Katrina back there, and Pike County, surrounding counties, and started basing off of theirs to build what we needed. Why in-house? It was the price. One of the quotes we got for our 23 parcels was $25 per parcel, which would have been over $500,000, almost $600,000. The cheapest we had was $8 a parcel, which would still been over almost $200,000. To date, we have done, and that's not counting my time and Amy's time and Chris's, we've spent around $23,000 in-house. That's the software, that's the computers, the plotter, everything to go with it. So we've a lot cheaper than what it would have been out of county. And we wanted a quality product. Sometimes when you send it off, I'm not picking on Woolford and other companies like that, but sometimes it's not what you know you have in-house. We've taken the surveys and deeds and best fit, if you will. And then having the knowledge of what your people are in that office means a lot too. We also took the available information from the state, from, like I said, surrounding counties and so forth. Communication is key all the way through with all your departments. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but Amy and I have both taken, and Chris have taken training, of course, planned for the parcel layer, what we expected it to be in the end for the surveyors or for the public, whoever is going to be using that product. We laid out our attribute table to match what we thought needed to be in there. We've got the parcel number, we've got what we call a notes layer, and we also have the acreage and the calculated in that table. And when, in the future, we're going to connect it to the auditor's information, and it'll be pulled in with parcel owner and all that information. We scanned the tax maps, and then we started co-going the deeds and the surveys. Of course, this is what our tax maps look like, and this is a screenshot of the attribute table. It's got the, of course, the program gives you the first three information. We've got the parcel ID, our acreage, this is our note layer, our calculated, and then we've also added a lot information in our township, so we can add our township information in there too. And this is an example of the surveys and the deeds. This is actually my husband's and my farm that I've used as an example. I don't know how well you can see this, but this is the being drawn in this program. We use the drawing tool that's found up in your editor, and also the COGO program. And it'll give you the distance and your direction as you're drawing. And here's the finished product. Examples of some of the layers we used to start us. This is the road map layer. That was from our OVRDC information. Townships was from the state of Ohio, ODNR's website. This is a watershed map that I used to work with soil and water, so that's where that came from. One of them I built off the state. And of course the soils, which will be crucial to CAUV. This is the contour map. And of course it's important for farmers, for businesses and area, communities, residential, villages. We'll be using it in the future, in townships. That's just another picture with our aerial behind it. Our future will be helping with our addresses will be updated. We've got a few of them done. They were done in 2008 by DTI. We've got to go live, got to go through and start updating them after parcel layers finish. And of course, this is on the statewide that's out there that you can pull in, which most of you already know that.
our goals for the future. We want to connect it to the auditor's website. That process will basically be pulling in the auditor's information into a program like Access and pulling it into the GIS so they can be connected. And of course, later on in the future, we'd like to take our surveys, which we've got to scan all of them yet. There's 23,000 to do. If anybody's bored, they're welcome to come and help. But anyway, we've got to link that, hyperlink them through the GIS, and then of course the 911. We've got several things going on in the 911 with Next Gen 911 going on. Layers at other departments. One of them that have talked to us is our dog warden. He wants to see where all the tags are going for different various sizes and things like that. Of course, it's GIS brings everybody together, which most of you guys know that. It's in here. And our conclusion is that communication very key, and your cooperation with other departments and having the common goals. If we didn't have those things, our GIS department wouldn't be working very well. You've got to have that communication with everyone that you're working on, whether it's a parcel layer or something in 911, you've got to have that communication, whether even with the 911 system, we've got to have communication with the sheriff's department, and the commissioners have got to be able to talk together, if you will. And then, of course, keep it simple and having a quality product. We have worked almost 8 years on this. The first round, we scanned the maps and drew them in, and then turned around and said, this is not exactly what we want. So we didn't really scrap it, but we started going back through and cleaning it up, which took us 2 years. Yeah. Thank you, guys. If anybody have any questions? Everybody still asleep?
So what did you, originally, before you had the GIS, what were you using for your?
The tax maps, that copy of that one were on Mylar. We still are using the Mylars. We have quit mapping on the Mylars. We have a drawer that we've been filing our surveys in, and as we go through the maps, we pull out of that drawer, which the drawer was full and it's down to about that much now, so we're updated. As soon as this thing's ready to hit, everything that's been transferred this year is in that new map that we're getting ready to push out.
And while we did the parcel map, we also did like the original village edition, did that along with them, subdivision,
And
all that at the same time.
And we did, which it might just be unique to our county, but we have what we call original track lines. Our tax map showed sometimes how a farm was split up. If it had 3 tracks on that deed, it would show on our tax map, and we went through and we've drawn those in too as well, so it would be helpful for our surveyors. And later on, we'd like to do a VMS layer, adjust that township line layer, because our township lines are not exactly what ODOT has. So, I mean, we're getting there, we're just not there yet.
Did you guys reestablish your control point? What were your control points for?
The county done some control points that we more or less used what the surveyors had and set it up against Mitch's line on Brown County. Katrina's and Mark's. Well, Mark's not there anymore, but Highland County's and used theirs. I know most of the counties were really generous with the data, except for Scioto County, but so we've tried to match the counties and make sure it fit in there well. That survey is going to look the same as it is in Brown County, or if it's in Adams County coming across that line, or better. Our goal was that if they had the capability of putting the 2 together, it'd be continuous.
Did you guys try to reestablish your township boundary markers?
That's what we're going to be doing next. It might be interesting because I'm not sure if all the descriptions even there in the book. We're going by what the surveyors have done, basically. And some of that's not always accurate either.
No.
Because one might have it over here and one might have it over there.
Is the engineer going to go out and help you guys reestablish those markers with survey grade equipment, or?
I doubt it. We're doing good getting to put a bridge in right now.
I got plenty of bridges.
Yeah. We won't pick on David. No, David's really good about rewarding us. He's just shorthanded, more or less. So, you know, we might need someone to be out in the field, but if it is, it might be one of us. Or Donnie.
Or somebody,
Or
yeah.
somebody.
Now, what about, say, if somebody wanted the GIS data or like a map from the data, how are you guys handling that? Are some counties like selling the data, not selling the data, et cetera?
On the maps that we push out of the office, the commissioners about 2 weeks ago set prices of January 1st. It's going into place for whatever comes out of the plotter and the printer. Not very expensive, from 50 cents to a couple dollars. We kind of match that. Another thing we done, which I've pestered these guys enough that you know, how much do you guys charge? So it's based off of some of the surrounding counties and one that's not. Well, part of the north.
I believe as soon as you have the data, you know, become a certain digital format, according to the state sunshine data policy, you cannot charge, you have to provide.
For the data or for the
For the
map?
data.
The
Oh,
data
for the
itself
data.
will be probably pushed out, for,
Right.
which
So
we have
that
some
is
now.
data.
Yeah. Now, when we're printing it out, to me, it's just, we're paying for the copy.
Right, right.
We're
You
not
can
charging
only
for that
charge,
data.
based on that sunshine law, you can only charge for the medium in which it's provided.
Right, right. And that's all it'll be charged.
Mm.
Now, the commissioners have talked about, you know, charging $25 for a disc if there's some people that want that, but there again, it's for our time and making that disc. It's not for the data itself.
Right.
Now, have you guys determined what you're going to do, linking your data to the CAMA data and serving it out?
That's where we're going to have to pull in a friend, Claremont County, to help a little bit. There's Mark had done a program that he wrote that could convert the CAMA data into Access into ArcReader. So that's kind of the path we're going down right now.
So you're going to try to host it yourself then, in-house?
The CAMA data, it'll push into the CAMA data.
The auditor's
website.
DTI.
DTI website. Because the last quote I got from DTI was only going to cost David $500 more a year. So, I mean, it just makes sense to let him, they can add a tab and it's there.
Who's your the CAMA vendors, DVTI?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. They charge by the parcel amount, is what they told me. So, David's already got a contract with them for his website, so that's why we were looking at that option instead of doing our own website. And it makes sense. It's easier, more user-friendly for the public too. Instead of having to go to 15 different websites, they can go to one or two in our case.
Easier on you guys.
Right.
You don't have to maintain it.
Right. Whatever we maintain, you know, whatever we do in-house, we can push it out every night to the server and be done. And they also house our 911 system too. So I've got a program in-house now that when I get around to it, on the addresses, when I get them updated, it'll update in our 911 system automatically, and we can pull that layer back down into our program and have an updated program or layer.
So have you looked into any like data standard before you start your conversion process, like FGDC standard or any other data standard format? Have you?
Not really. They had picked ArcMap before I started working, so that's what I had to work with. So I didn't go down that path of looking any other way to do it other than talking to vendors.
88 counties, all doing parcels differently. There is no standard.
I mean, that's basically what
Right now, the state is trying to create a statewide parcel layer where it would be in one schema, one standard. But as it is right now, since the beginning of time, everybody's done their parcels a little different, a little field name.
Ohio, the state of Ohio is a home rule state. You try to start dictating standards down to counties. That's not going on.
Well, they tried that with OVRDC at first, and then by the time we came around, they said, you can name your fields whatever you want.
One thing that we tried to do is just kind of unify it to what Highland County and some of the other counties had around us to kind of simplify it for our users, the end user. That's the whole process when we started. Because I came from a surveying background and doing the research, and how do we present this to our surveyors, to our realtors, to our general public? You know, what are they going to need in this? So it wasn't just what we wanted. It was also what they're the most important part of your job is the consumer.
Okay, we'll get started here. We had one more guest come in, so I'll let him introduce himself, and then we'll get started with Mitchell. Me?
I'm Jeff Nemechek. I am the regional technical manager with Pictometry. I drove down from Cleveland, that's why I was late. Sorry about that. But I am glad to be here. I don't get down to Southern Ohio enough. And I went to OU, so I think that's where you're from. Okay. Yes. The knowledge and everything. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been doing GIS since I graduated in 2007. At one company for 4 years, and I was a GIS director in Ottawa County for almost 4, and then I just joined Picto in June. So I'm like, Malcolm's like, you can get up and do a little presentation. I'm like, no. I'm a GIS guy at heart. I just, am donning the Pictometry logo. So, if you have questions about GIS or imagery for that matter, I'm definitely here to help. So
sweet. Okay. My name is Mitch Hastings. I'm the GIS supervisor, coordinator, whatever you want to call it, at Brown County. I'm a professional surveyor in the state of Ohio, so I kind of come at GIS and mapping in general from a surveyor's perspective and trying to keep surveyors from having to come into the office, and they can do it all at their laptop at the kitchen table. A little brief history. I started at the engineer's office in 2003 as just a co-op. Was going to Cincinnati State, was doing some drafting work with them and some part-time surveying in the field, and got serious with it around 2004 with developing the GIS system for Brown County. There was absolutely nothing built available. We didn't have road center lines, no parcels, no nothing. We had a computer and a land development desktop, and that was about it. So we started it on a shoestring. I started building the parcel layer around 2004, 2005. At the same time, we started scanning the plats and trying to link all that stuff together. There was a tax map database. The tax map office did have a Microsoft Access database built with all their card system in it. So we had that to leverage at the time. And we've kind of kept the two separate. I have a spatial parcel layer with the parcel number, and that's it. And the tax map department builds a tabular database of the parcels, and we link those two before we put them out on the web. So we started, when we got finished up with the parcels, the idea came to mind that, hey, we want to throw these out here on the web. So we talked to our AutoDesk vendor, and they mentioned a product that AutoDesk was pushing at the time was MapGuide 6.5. It was an Web 1.0 style design. It was used in ActiveX control. You had to download this little app, and it was a real thick client, which was nice because the server would send just little bits of data, vector data, to the thick client, and then it would build the map on the computer. But the downfall of that was it was only usable with Internet Explorer and Netscape at the time. So since then, everything's exploded, and it would only work with Internet Explorer for a long time, and it became a real sticky point. AutoDesk, our developer, our software company of choice, I guess, or necessity, saw that issue, and I think it was around 2004-ish, they started to develop an open source, half open source, half Autodesk style of map that was use a thin client, which basically on the server side would create an image and then would project that image to whatever device you're at, so, or whatever device you're using. So they've completely abandoned the GIS software we started out with, and they've migrated completely over to, they call it Autodesk Infrastructure Map Server, for lack of a better term. And that's their proprietary piece of software for GIS hosting online. There's a open source version, which is Autodesk, or not Autodesk, but it's just called Map Guide. So they're almost identical. So I'll try to show you some of the ins and outs of how to do it, and it's completely free. I could probably, without, the only cost I would have if I wanted to go with the Map Guide open source route would be the server cost and just keeping the lights on for the server to run. And so that would be all that would be needed. And I apologize, this is the first time I've given this spiel, so if I'm rambling or babbling, please stop me and say, wait, you got to clarify that a little bit. So anyway, what do you need to start with? Well, first you need a server, and this is our server. It's hosted at Draftco in Martins Ferry, Ohio. They keep the lights on for us, keep an internet connection to it. I think they have like a T1 line. I asked my host to send me some stuff, and I neglected to get it in here. I was kind of pressed for time. But the few of the basic things you need is you need an IP address. So that's handled through your internet service provider, and our IP address. Oops, nope, sorry. IP. There we go. And it's basically just a phone number for the server, if you want to think of it that way. There it is right there. And you purchase that along with your internet, that whatever your provider, whatever speed or whatever connection rate you have, that's one of the options that is available to you. So you need that, and then it's not necessary, but you also need to think about getting a domain like browncounty.gis.com as our domain. But you could also do, if you had another, like your commissioners had a website, you could have them throw a subdomain onto through their register, and it would point to the IP address that would be your static address for your server. So you just need a server with a static IP is basically all you need. And then you could talk to your commissioner's office or some other government entity in the county, say, hey, can we put like, map dot and then their domain name. So, and that's what I've done with, I actually have two servers running here. I have the old GIS server, which is just hosting the home page, and it's got browncounty.gis.com attached to its IP address, or its phone number, if you want to think of it that way. And then the server you're looking at here, it just has that plain old IP address, but I have a subdomain called map dot, then it's browncounty.gis.com. So anyway, so you need that, and then the server itself. I've put Map Guide open source on my laptop in the kitchen and hid it from, somewhere else in the world, and I mean, I'm not slamming it with a bunch of hits, but it still will serve up the data just fine. So you need to, what comes bundled with it, you have two options. You can use Internet Information Services. Let me flip over to that. And that is just a pre-bundled package that comes with Windows Pro or any kind of Windows server. And it allows you to host your web to the public, to an anonymous person. So we have our default website. And when you install Autodesk Infrastructure Map Server, or you install Map Guide open source, it creates a little virtual directory here called Map Server, and I have a couple different versions. As they keep updating, I keep putting them on here, and I just never install them. You just move on to the next latest and greatest. But it creates its own little virtual directory, and then I have my little web page as well on here. So you need either Internet Information Services, or it comes bundled with Apache. So if you wanted to put it on a home version of Windows, you could, and just use the bundled configuration and install it with Apache, and you'll be up and running in half an hour. It's pretty cool. So the difference between AIMS, the Autodesk Infrastructure Map Server, or map guide, it basically just boils down to a featured data object that Autodesk has as proprietary to them for enabling you to view SID files. And that is really about it. That's pretty much the only reason why we stick with Autodesk. And if not, something came up, it probably wouldn't be a big stretch to just go to the open source version. So when you install Autodesk Infrastructure Map Server on the server, it basically just throws it into a directory. Let me flip over to, how long do I have? I could ramble on for hours, I'm sorry.
That clock's an hour past.
I thought it was off, yeah, okay. All right.
Already been an hour. No.
Okay. All right, so it throws it into here.
He's got to get back to Cleveland, so
So basically it throws it into there, and it starts this little daemon running, and you can see it in services. And this is the actual server that's running, right? Infrastructure Map Server 2015, right there. If I hit stop, everybody that's hitting our server right now, they couldn't view our map. So that's what's running once you install AIMS 2015. That's it right there. But it does nothing for you. It's just running in the background. It's like a little hamster in a cage spinning its wheels, but you have to tell it to do something. So they have this product, and it's called let's see, Infrastructure Studio. And Studio talks with the server, that program, that AIMS 2015 server, and allows you to build the maps and do all the stuff to get it configured for it to be ported out to the web. There's just a little bit on the back end. There's a site administrator. And let me punch in real quick here. I think it hides my password. And this enables you to set up your aliases for where you have your data stored on the server, where you want to pull your data from. It also allows you to create users, administrators. It's very basic on some of the user roles, and I'm the only one that ever hits this, so I've never set any of the other ones up. But oops. I think it's a capital N. Oops. Got my caps lock on. There we go. That's my problem, probably. There we go. Okay, so basically just some back-end stuff where your data is going to be stored at, your temporary file paths. You configure your services, where your repositories for your data are at, your connections, all that happy stuff all gets set up in there. Your logs, if you want to track who's been on your site and where your errors are popping up at, that kind of thing. Users is where you can add different style. You can restrict people to just be able to edit certain aspects of the site. And like I said, we don't have any users other than me, so never set them up. You can also manage packages in here. I can take my whole site, the data and everything, the way the maps are styled, and wrap them up into a package. It's only, I think this like 96 megabytes, and I could give that to anybody else who's running the software, and it would come right up and look just like I left it. You can also configure WMS service. I haven't messed with it a whole lot. I don't think too many people are into it, but it basically is where somebody else with another mapping site could mash my data with theirs. I've played with it just a little bit, but I haven't really gotten too thick into the woods on it yet. There's not a whole lot of call for it. So, and then aliases. Let's see. Yeah, here's all my aliases for my data. The aerials, parcel shape files, my spatial data, my tabular data. You just set it up, and you park your data in folders that you plan on updating as you update your data on your computer at work. And you push them out I do it via FTP, and throw it in there. And then the server looks into those specific folders that you set up to pull that data and bring it into the site. So that's just a little bit on the back end there. Let me kind of lost there. There we go. So let's go into the Studio program. And I can load data from any of the following FDOs: ARC, SDE, MySQL, ODBC, which is your database style. SDF is a Autodesk proprietary shape style, so spatial data format, things what it's called. Seems to be what Autodesk wants to push for, like a spatial style file for the web. In shape files, WMS, WFS. GDAL is an open source raster provider, I believe. Ogre, I'm not real sure what it is. And SQL Server Spatial, which in Autodesk seems to be getting a little bit of traction. And then for Autodesk only, you have the raster FDO but that's just with the product we have here. If you're using the open source version, you wouldn't have that FDO for SID files. Let's see. Flip on over here. So basically, on this screen right here, this is where you would log in if you had different user roles assigned. So I'm administrator. We'll punch that in, and it'll load the site for us. And you can have multiple sites on here. I could have, like a site for soil and water, and a site for the auditor, and a site for, just however they want to do it. And then you can assign users to just be able to mess with just Brown County, or just mess with soil and water, or whatever you assign them to. So inside here you have these folders that get set up by default, and this is kind of your workflow. You have data, you have layers, you have load procedures, which is where it pulls the data that you store on your server into the site. It has your maps. You can do some symbology with some point layers and stuff, and your web layouts. So let's touch on load procedures first. I have a bunch of load procedures set up. So when, say, we have a guy across the hall from me, he does our addresses, and he punches it into that DDTI software, that AccuGlobe. So when he does an address, he enters into that data, and it gets through an SQL layer, ported up to Columbus, wherever their server's at. And then the next day, it becomes like a downloadable shapefile for me. So he'll say, I put in 5 addresses last week. I think you need to update that layer. So, okay, fine. I open it up. Actually, I don't even have to open it up. I just grab that shapefile that downloads onto my computer when I use that web updater, and then throw that over to our server in a folder. And I have just some real simple data folders set up. Tabular data for databases, and spatial data for, obviously, spatial data. A raster, SDF, and shape. Those are just kind of the 2 or 3 flavors I like to send it over in. It would be a shape file coming from DDTI. It'd be on the point. It's a point style layer, addresses, and I just throw it basically right there. And I go back, once it's in there, I go into Infrastructure Studio, click on this guy, and it pulls it from that same location I just showed you. It pulls it and brings it into my map and makes it live to anybody who wants to look at it online. And you just hit load resources, and away it goes. And this is there's these check boxes down here. When you're pulling something in for the first time, it'll actually create the layer, like a default style layer for you. And it'll also ask you, where do you want to store the data? And then there's also the layer. So you have this data folder, which is where all the data goes. And you have a layer folder, which the layers are looking at the data. So you could have like 15 layers looking at the same data set, but dishing it out in a different style, or using different symbology. So let's see. So inside some of these data, I have contours, hydrology. This is all and all these. They can be a combination between shape files or SDF files. Those are usually typically the 2 that I use the most. And I probably should go through and just change them all to shape files, because it's easier. Because people, when they ask me, like, hey, can I have a shape file? Nobody asks for SDF, but it's kind of a carryover from when we're using MapGuide 6.5. It could only, no, it could use shape files, but we started out with SDF. I just haven't taken the time to do it. But there really makes absolutely no difference. And actually, when you do the load procedure, it takes whatever format that's in, shapefile, SQL, and stores it as an SDF. And it's all like coded in. It's got this big googly name, but it's stored in a data repository. that Infrastructure Map Studio sets up for you. So from there, once you get the data in, then you go into layers. So I'll go into the parcel layer. Let's go into, I think it's parcels 1. This is the main parcel layer. And this software enables you to enable people to view any of these attributes based in your attribute table. So if you don't want them to see the sheet number for whatever reason, you just uncheck it. They can't see it. And as we scroll down here, yeah, it's got a really, really rich tooltip functionality in it. Yeah, it looks like a bunch of gobbledygook there, but let me flip out and go over to my map someplace. So let me flip over here. And this is on this laptop right here. So you flip over here, and that gobbledygook turns into that nice little tooltip area right here with the ability to view the plat, to view the report from, that's like a detailed report from our tax map database, and view the actual scanned version of the tax map. We usually every December I start scanning the tax maps. We used to do an archive of them every year. We haven't stopped keeping our tax maps up to date yet for whatever reason. Probably, and then I have a link to the auditor site, and that's linked via the parcel number. So it's basically just this. You got to go through the little disclaimer, but you have this query string that's built up by DDTI, and you just change the parcel number in the query string, and you're linked. So it's not a really giant leap there, but so that's how you do that. So anyway, if I go back over to here, and I'll show you kind of real time. I think I should be able to see. So you see the parcel number has a bunch of numbers. I'll show you how easy this is to update. So if I go to ID and change it to, let's just change it to last first, and it'll automatically, you can hit validate, and if you mess something up, it will not let you hit OK. Hit OK down here, and then I should be able to go over to my map, and this is real time. And let's see if it'll update for us. Maybe I'll scroll the map a little bit. Yeah, it's probably going to make me a liar here. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It's funky. Man, that should work. Oh, why didn't it close? There we go. Oh, see that little star right there? It means I need to save that. Save that edit. Flip back over. Come on, wake up. There we go. I don't know. But I gotta boot up.
You were getting a phone call there soon.
Probably. Yeah. Nah, it'll be all right. Jeez Louise. It is really thinking here. Let me refresh it. What the heck? Yeah, see, you should just be able to, like right now. There's probably some class using it right now and hammering it.
And so you're running Windows Server?
Yeah, just Windows Server Enterprise 2008. It's on a Dell PowerEdge T310. Well, that's thinking there. I'll show you what that looks like. It's just sitting on the shelf at Draftco, Martins Ferry. There it is. That's all it is. That's what's hosting our website. It's nothing fancy. I think I broke it. Great. Let me close it. Let me get out of that.
Do you have any idea what your loads are in terms of simultaneous view or anything like that?
I have a Google Analytics little tracking tool in there, and we usually average around 100 unique clients a day. I mean, it's pretty low volume. It's just mainly surveyors and auditors and realtors hitting it. Well, I think it did break it. Jeez Louise. Sometimes it does that. And just go in here and Infrastructure Map Studio, just hit restart. sometimes that helps. A lot of times when I push data up, it'll get a little funky, and you just do a restart on the service. And whoever's using it's probably pissed off at me, but it'll shut down here and restart. But they'll just get everything and hit refresh too. Come on. Yeah, I think it did. Yeah, probably. I love it when they call me and they need a map printed out and they can't figure out how to do it, and they got 5 minutes till the closing, and yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, it's doing this thing. I've done this 100 times. So, hopefully the sucker will restart here. It would do this when I was giving a presentation. But, so anyway, you can edit your layers really easily. There it goes. Blah, blah, blah. It does that all the time. Hit start. Start. There we go.
And is that just
fire right back up.
Yeah. Just a viewer, or do you have like editing, like web editing capabilities of the data itself?
No, no web editing.
Just a viewer.
Just a viewer. I figure if they want to edit the data, they can download it. You know, and we have that available to them here in the form of. If you go to our home page, let me flip out there while I was doing this thing. We started out doing DVDs, and we did like a release agreement, and that was just a pain in the butt. Happened to get a release agreement from everybody that called in, and this is like the first of the year we always just get slammed with hits. And that's all I would do for like a week or two is make DVDs for people. So I finally went to the engineer and said, can we please just put this stuff online so people can download it? So I came up with this download page, for better or worse. You just click on, you go to our home page, go to data download. And I just put just the top 10 things that people ask for. I mean, if anybody wants anything else, either they can get it from where I got it, source-wise, or I guess I can make a DVD for them. And we did have like a $10 fee just for the media and the mailing and the postage and whatnot, and that was it. But since I put this up here, it has shut it down almost completely. Every now and then somebody will call in with our entire contour layer, which is a ginormous, huge file, and I'll throw it on. It takes like 6 DVDs to get all that junk on there, but let me try to get back over here and make sure the sucker's up and running, because I'm starting to get worried. Let me zoom in. Hold on. Let me zoom in. Make sure my parcel layer comes up. Yeah, look. Yep. See. There's the name in front of the parcel. There you go. Okay. They can just live with it till I get done with this. I won't change it again. They don't need it anyway. Let's go back into Infrastructure Map Studio one more time, and I'll kind of go through my spiel. Get done with that. Okay, so you got your data, you got your layers. It kind of showed you just a little bit how to do that. One other thing, I showed you the tooltip. That's where it kind of hung up at. But here's where you stylize the data. You can add scale ranges, like if you wanted to toggle on certain different scales. You can theme the data. I won't get into that. You can add feature labels like the track numbers or the address numbers if you want to have a node layer with addresses. You can preview it down here. So once you get your layer built, you need to build a map. So I have several maps in here in the map folder. And the maps are specific for what you want to do with that set of data. I have just a basic, let's see, I think it's the Fusion one, is our just general mapping data. It's just, what most people want to see when they click on our map. You go into, I have an engineer map that we keep just kind of just that URL in-house, just passed around in-house. It's got the contours are a little more accessible, just a few little tweaks to it. I also have a soils map, which the soil layer is on by default. And most people don't want to see the soil layer, but if they do, they can click on that map and it'll come up by default. Voting precincts. I've played around with there's a mobile app that comes with this data. It's not real great. I played around with it just a little bit, so I got a map floating around in there with that stuff. I have a contour download map, and I can show you that. That's real handy. through our data download page. Let me see if I can get that back up. Okay, so I click through the disclaimer, and then I go into, if I want to download our contours, our 2008 2-foot contours, we have them with, Wolbert did them, and we have them in 2 flavors. We have like 13 Esri, 13 zones in an Esri shapefile format. But we also have like 2,500 individual tiles based on those OSIP grids in DWG. So that's what most people probably want. They just want that little area. So I made a map with those tiles on it by default. So all they got to do is just zoom into where they're at, click on that tile, and it prompts them to download the data, and they'll download that DWG file. So it's pretty much shut down our request for contours, unless somebody wants to do an overarching like watershed, and they, for some crazy reason, want 2-foot contours to do it with. I'll get a request for that, but it takes a moment for it to come up. When it loads the first time, it's about 1.5 megabytes that gets stored in cache on the machine. But after that, it usually pops right back up because it's just reading off the cache on the local hard drive. So that's kind of nice. I'll get to that once it gets done thinking here. I don't know what's holding it up. So you got your layers. Let me go into my map here, and we create a map, and let's turn off, just go to edit, and you have your coordinate system. You can tell it whether you want it in state plane. All my data comes in as Ohio state plane, but I reproject it as pseudo Mercator, so I can use open layers underneath it. I can use those Bing and those Google layers underneath it because that's what they're projected in. Then you can create groups. You can toggle whether it's visible when it initially displays, whether you can select it, what its name is. You can name the layer in the map something different from what the layer is called on your site for whatever reason. It comes in handy every now and then if you got some goofy name for your data. And then you have a drawing order. This is how everything's stacked up inside that GIS. And if something's on top of another, you can't click on it. You gotta plan that carefully, how you have that stratigraphy of your layers going on there. So, and then zoom down. There's some base layers stuff. I haven't got into that a whole lot. It's kind of hokey. It's not real good. You got these scales, zoom scales, and let's see. You can set it to manual, but you can, if you say auto to be the same as commercial layers, there's Bing and Google and Yahoo use just these specific layers, and they have all their data tiled in the images at each zoom level, so it can pull that data in as quick as it does. So it tries to mimic those zoom layers levels, so your data matches with their data. So that's what it's doing there, and then it just gives you kind of a hokey view of it. So then you have your maps built, and then you can put them into a web layout, which is kind of cool. Right out of the box, let's see, here we go. This is our map right here. You have several different choices. You have of these templates for your map data to be served up in, and this is where you go into edit. This is where you can set up all your toolbars, and where you can set up your legend. You can set up the map. You can set up, if you want to see those open source layers. So you got Google Maps. You can toggle those on which ones you want to see. Yahoo Maps, OpenStreetMaps available, OSM's available, and then which one is visible by default. I mean, there's just, I could go on for hours about all the stuff that's in here. And you can mess around with some of these things. You can edit their XML just a little bit, tweak how they function. You can build searches. You can build reports right out of the box. And if your server, it has a static IP address and it's available anonymously to the public, here's the URL for your map. Once you have this, you have your data. You built your layers, you created a map, put it all together, put all your layers in the map, created it, made it the way you want it to look, throw it in a web layout, and assign it to one of these templates in here. And you take this URL right here, let me copy that, control copy, And minimize that. I'll just open up something. There's my contour map is finally thinking about coming up. So let me paste this dude in here. So at the beginning of the URL, it says localhost. So I just need to change that to map dot. That's my subdomain, map dot brown county gis.com. It should load that web layout. That's just as easy as it gets. So your maps, you could just pull some data, throw it in there, and have it available within minutes. Having said that, I built from scratch this application that wraps around the map, and that was in our old 6.5 site. And I didn't like kind of the cookie cutter built-in searches and reports that were available with this software, and I had all this great searches already built and reports already built. So I plinked around for quite a while trying to figure out how to integrate it with the new software, and ended up just contacting the vendor, or not a vendor, but a gentleman who does coding and does work for AutoDesk. And he was able to it really was pretty painless, able to link the two together to get them to work with each other. So you can search by owner's name, and you can only search by one field in the out-of-the-box searches. But I want to search by track number, and I also want to hit our data with what township. So because it can be multiple track numbers throughout the county. But so we had him write this. So if I punch in my name, or I wrote the stuff, but he linked it got it to interact with the map. So. And here's the searches. And we had these with our old 6.5 site. It's the exact same thing. I just changed just a few little lines of code in here. So you have the option to view the plat if you want to. And we saved everything as a PDF way back in the day, probably 10 years ago. And as something new comes in, we just name it the parcel number. And if there's more than one PDF in there with the same parcel number, we just add A at the end of it, or B, or C, or D, or however many it takes to not be unique, or to be the same, and to be unique. And we throw it into a folder, and this happens to be in Sterling Township, so it's in the Sterling folder. So it queries the database, finds the township, looks in that folder, and then pulls the plats up. And if there's multiple plats, you just keep scrolling down, and they're all PDFs. And if you click on this link up here, you can download them to your local machine and save them on your hard drive. So that's kind of how that works through our report here. And then detail, I try to mimic the card that's in the tax map office with this report. And this is pulling just data straight out of the tax map database. And then I also have the links to the tax map, which is in our tax map archive, which will load up a scanned PDF of the tax map from like December of this past year. Well, I'm getting lost here in tabs. Let's see. Plat, same thing. Auditor's data, same thing. Recorder's deed book, that one's kind of tricky. They have this. Let's see. Let me click on here. I got a disclaimer that kind of tells you how to do it. But U.S. Land Records has their own little form set up. But if you know the name of the forms in their data or in their web page, you can get it to work. You got to select the registry. Select Brown County, and you basically click through their disclaimer at that point and you're ready to search. You flip back over to our website, you hit debook again. Okay, that's an OR too, good. And now, since you've kind of clicked through their disclaimer, it'll go right to their deed. You just click on it, open it right up. So it's all like right there at your fingertip in that report page. And if it's a deed book, obviously it won't be there because it was prior to '94 and they haven't scanned those yet. So, but anything OR will be there. And then there's a scanned version of our tax map. What else have I forgot?
So you're still keeping those tax maps?
Yeah, still keeping up to date. We have a Mylar and a paper, and I scan the papers every December, January time, sometime in there when it's slow. And then on our download page, just I have zip files. Those are all shapes when you unzip them. And then I also use name's escaping me. Yeah, I export them to KML via QGIS. bring shapefile to QGIS, hit save as KML format, and I zip them up, and throw them out there when I do an update. So if anybody wants to use them on Google Earth, they can. And it's got all our spatial data built into it right there. So, and try to update the parcels once every 2 weeks. Myself, the girls at TaxMap, they keep the database in the paper versions, you know, nightly, daily. So, but among the other things I have to do, it's typically as soon as I can get to it. And I also, let me flip over to my machine. It's probably already forgot. This is my machine at my desk at the office, and here's our parcel layer. And I build it in Civil 3D. We use Civil 3D and Map. I don't have any Esri products on my machine. And when we get a new survey or a split or I have an issue, I draw all that in via bearing and distance, and then try to rectify that to the aerial photography as best I can in the AutoCAD. And as long as it has this block with the parcel number inside that boundary that represents the parcel, then I'm good to go. When I do my topology every 2 weeks and clean up my line work, export it out with that block ID value as a centroid, and export it as a shape file, then I join it with the tax map data from the Access database we have, and then port it over to our GIS, and it's available to the public that way. And then I have a kind of a color scheme in here. Anything in cyan, I've gone for bearing and distance. I don't know how well you can see that. Yeah, and everything is purple was our original vectorization of the tax map. So I kind of have an idea what kind of weight to give something when I'm editing and tweaking and something new comes in. So it's kind of, as you can see, it's kind of like a patchwork. I'm still building and still correcting, and it's, you know, it's what it is what it is. And TaxMap, we pass the database back and forth between TaxMap. If we have anything new that goes on, they enter it into a database form, and if there's an issue, then I have a separate form in the same database that goes into. They give it to me, or I upload it we pass it back and forth on our server. I just pull it from our server after they upload it. And then it has all my changes for the past 2 weeks that I have to incorporate into the system. So that's kind of how we do that. It just saves a bunch of paper. And then I check a box when I'm done, and it forgets it, and it disappears. Yeah.
What do you use to convert from the CAD into like a shape file?
Just map export. You can. It's no big deal. It'll export out into a ton of different formats. You click in here, map, export. I typed it right. I wish I could zoom in. It's kind of like way out there. Can I go full screen? There it goes, finally. Yeah, and Esri shapefile is like one of the first things in here. I can go SDF, Esri ArcInfo, Arc something or other. I can't even read it. It's just, I wish I could zoom in. I don't know. Let me see if I do roll in like that or like that. It stinks. But well, don't think I can. This is just Google's little remote desktop app. It's kind of handy. Getting around my server with it. Shrink to fit. Ooh, yeah. Hey, there you go. Good deal. All right, so yeah, those are the options you have in the export format. So I obviously wouldn't just export that. There's a couple other little crazy things I got to do to it to get it to where I want it to export. But yeah, it's yeah, right out of the box. So you can certainly do most of your work. And that's AutoCAD. This is pretty raw AutoCAD. Here, let me hit cancel there. It's kind of slow connection there, but that's just like raw line work. I create a topology and then export that topology as a shapefile. So if I go into view, and I got to open up my little task pane here. And they built everything. Autodesk Map is built on that Autodesk Infrastructure Map Server, open source, open OSGeo map guide format. So if I go into Map Explorer, I got my topology in here, and then I export Let's see. It's not loaded right now. It's not a great idea to hit load. I don't know if I made changes to it.
And how does that work with like projections? Like, what are you? I'm not too familiar with like AutoCAD at all.
Yeah,
so.
you can set up your default projection inside there pretty easy, and then I'm just drawing in state plane coordinate system.
Okay.
So I'm Ohio South right now.
Right.
You know, all our aero photography will come in where it should. Is incorrect, incomplete. Yeah, if I made a few changes to it and it's flipping out. But like I said, once a week I go through here and create this. And let me try to think. I'm under pressure here. I could just create something junky here. One. Okay. And then the next, so I created the file. Then the next screen says, what do you want to export? Point, a line, a polygon, or text? Polygon because it's parcels. And then see it says select polygon topology to export. Brown County. It's the one I just made. Hit data. Yeah, select attribute data. Based on what? I have block attributes in the centroids of the parcels. Their name, that happens to be ID, is the block attribute's name. That's where all the parcel numbers are stored in those little pieces of text. Hit OK, and it'll fire that out as a shapefile. My topology. Here it goes. All 36,796 parcels, or little slivers, or whatever's in there.
Just thinking the boundary lines and the polygon.
Yeah, just like that. And then then I bring him into, close that, hit, no, I don't want to do any changes. Let's go. And then I go into data, connect to data. I'll load in that shapefile we just created. Shape connection, shape, parcels 1, 11/10/2015, yep, that's right. Okay, connect, add the map, and it's going to pull all those in. So there they are. And right now they just have the parcel number. So if I click on it, pull it up, under my feature properties, it just shows the parcel number for each piece of ground, because that's what I told it to export out. So here's where the kind of the magic happens, and I do my join. I go into data again, I go to connect to data. ODBC, I have a ODBC's data source set up, tax map 64. I bring that database in whenever I do an update, run my little queries to it, change it around the way I think it needs to look, hit test connection. You got to do this by default, it's kind of retarded. So it's connected to it. So now I have tax maps data in here, and I have my data in here, the parcel data, the spatial data. And then I do, go to data, display manager, that's what's doing it. Right click on parcels and say create a join, like that. And now it's asking me what to join. So I want the parcel table out of our tax map database based on the ID, which is the parcel number, and the parcel number in the database. Hit OK. And it doesn't take too long. It usually takes a couple seconds. And it'll join all 36,000. You kind of see them kind of populate back in as it links them. Hopefully it won't crash on us. So that's basically how I get those joined. And I do another export as another shape file, call it like Brown County or something obvious, and then port it out to our server, and then also zip it up and put it available for download. So if you want to do something more with it that you can't do on our website, then just download the thing and play with it all you want. So let's see, have I talked about anything else? That's really about it. I think that's all I have.
Great. Any questions here for?
Silence. Sorry. Sorry. I babbled too much. I babbled too much. I'm sorry.
Your computer program with a PS license?
No, I learned all this just hacking around. They locked me in a closet at the engineer's office and told me to build this about 10 years ago. So
You better not eat my truck.
Huh?
You better not eat my truck.
Yeah.
You were the one. No, I just can't.
Yeah. So it's just something you pick up over, the decade that I've been doing it. But yeah, it's still building. It's probably the internet going here. But yeah, after that's done, it's just export and port it back out. But it's yeah, I mean, like I said, all this stuff's completely free for download. It's pretty cool stuff, really. And for our needs, 100 people a day, whatever, it's more than adequate for us. So I don't think that AIMS software's around our renewal's about $700 a year to renew that every year, a license for it, and it's several $100s a month to keep the lights on at Draftco and keep the internet supplied, and that's about it.